Well, I never did make it back down here last night after supper. So now I'm back down here today. Hopefully get something done. Alright, so I think it looks to me almost like what I've got to do is I've got to take... I see this screw right here. I'm thinking if I take that screw out, that might allow this pin that acts as the pivot point for this platform to come out. So. Wow, that set screw is really too short to have been actually pushing on anything there, so I don't think that's going to be the key. We'll keep it loose just in case. Sometimes it's nice to be wrong. Huh. Anybody notice what I just did? When I went over and got the screwdriver and figured out what I was doing, I just unscrewed this little tiny set screw right here and said it was too short. This set screw right here just screws into the back of the platform. I have absolutely no idea what that's for. This is the one I was thinking of that where I have to loosen, get the pin out, and it's already loose. So no wonder why that pin just slid right out. That clearly is the one that would be pushing on the pin. This other one's for. Gotta get another glove. Let me change the camera angle here because I think I keep getting in the way of the shot. That's weird. That little tiny screw that I took out that I don't know what it goes to, it's for this hole right here. It comes out right here. So what if that was an oil hole? What is that oiling? The oil would just, no, that makes no sense. The oil would just drip out on top of here and go nowhere. So I have no idea what that screw hole is for. If you can see it right there, that's where that hole, that little set screw right there. So now I think I'm going to take this rod that goes from the clutch lever and take that off. And then I guess I'll take this pivot bolt out.
Oh, it's a nut on the other side of that. Oh, yeah. No, I'll do that one first. I think some oil.
This right back in there. So I won't lose it. This just threads into the bracket.
Oh, I see. I'll tell you, it's a pivot on there. Because that could stand to have a little bit of grease on it when you put it back together. Take that bolt, put it right back in there so it doesn't get lost. That. One down the other end. This one's just got a cotter pin in it to keep it from unscrewing all the way. That's interesting. It must have had a castle nut on it at some point because it's got a hole for the cotter pin, but there's no nut on it, which makes no sense. So. Alright. Put that back in so it doesn't get lost. This has got a very definite bend at the end here. So when I put this back on, this end with the sharp angle bent on the end of it goes to the clutch end, and this goes to the lever end. And it kind of sweeps this way towards the front of the lathe, so I won't put it on backwards like that. This little bracket, take that off. There. Those big screws. these screws are the same length. Same drill here. I'm just going to stick them back in just for safekeeping.
Hey, that's interesting. Never knew this was here. I had puzzled about this little port when I'd first gotten the lathe, thinking that this hole is not normally supposed to be here, and that somebody cut this hole in the top here for some reason, not knowing why exactly. And what I'm looking at right down here is a couple of things. I've actually shown this in some much earlier videos, but there's this big huge gear right here. I guess this is almost like the bolt gear. The teeth are right here. So this gives, this port, cutting this hole gave somebody access to the bull gear teeth, and also there's a brass looking, some sort of a, almost like a spanner nut or something that's got what looks to me like some serious chisel pucks and marks on it, as if somebody was using something and banging on it to tighten that up maybe. And I got a feeling that has to do with loading up this bearing in here. So maybe at one point they had a big problem with this spindle. But what puzzles me is why they did that, because from what I can see, it looks to me like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To me it looks like there's 7 screws you take out and this whole top cover comes off. Sure looks that way to me. So why they did that, I don't know. Now that I've got this plate off, I can see that there's a second port right here that also looks like, but this looks like a factory because it's got a part in the casting that actually kind of sticks up around this. So this looks like it's a factory port, but this cover is, it's wood or plastic or something. So I don't think that's the original cover. Now what this port exposes, I honestly don't know. I'll give you a shot of both of these. So here you go. This is the little homemade cover. It's a little piece of plywood somebody cut to fit the hole. And this hole definitely looks like it was made by somebody after this left the factory. This is what looks like a bowl gear here, and then down inside there you can see that brass thing all beat up. And then over here, this cover also is non-metallic, making me think it's homemade. But it's covering this port that doesn't look like it was made after the fact. This looks like it was right in the casting. That by design this port should have been here. And that's exposing whatever this is, which I got a feeling, since this is the bull gear, I got a feeling it has to do with this lever right here, which is to engage the back gear. Nope, it doesn't move at all. I can see what engages and disengages the back gear, or unlocks the bull gear so the back gear can come into effect, I think. That's further down underneath this. What this is, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about that for now. Let me get a close-up shot of that that brass deal. Alright, so next I think I'm going to work on getting this clutch assembly and the chain drive off of here so that I can separate the headstock from the bed. And that's working on this back side here, which I can't get a camera angle because I've got my storage cabinets in the way. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to got this on this roller. I think I might be able to swing this enough so that I can get this at a better angle. Another little trap door. This is a little rectangular trap door, and it clearly under all this dirt and grime says oil. So apparently that's another spot you're supposed to get in and oil, which with the platform, the motor platform in the way, I guess you just kind of sneak this up a little bit and squirt some oil in there. Now, it took me a little while to get ready to move this because I had an extension cord running underneath here that I must have run over when I was moving this. So it was looped around one of the wheels, so I had to get that cord out of the way. Now it's come to my attention that I don't have my large pry bar down here. It's outside because I was letting my son chisel some ice. So let's just see if I can, with the tailstock and the whole carriage off of here, it takes a lot of the weight off of this end. Oh yeah. Sweet. Get a broom, clean this garbage up. This floor is filthy and in need of a good vacuuming, but I'm not doing that right now. The reason why I'm sweeping up this stuff is some of this is actually some pretty good sized chunks of grease and dirt that have fallen off, and if I leave those on the floor, they're going to stick to the bottom of my shoes, and even though these are my beat up shoes that I use down here in the shop, and I take them off as soon as I get upstairs just to avoid tracking anything into the house. I still don't really want this garbage on my shoes. If I move the Atlas lathe down out of the way, I'll be able to let some more of this light that's behind me shine on my work area here, and I'll be able to set the camera up behind me. So, what we got now is this whole deal right here. I'm not sure how that's going to come off of this, but right here almost looks like it should unscrew, but that's not a nut. Or is it? I mean, I do have this long screw right here that goes all the way through to the bottom. If I unscrew this, obviously this part will come off. But I don't think it's going to come. There are some shoes that actually ride in this, and move that in now. I think I've got to get this to come off. Almost looks like there's a tiny, yeah, there's a little set screw right there. Let's see what happens if I loosen that set screw. It's on the kitchen counter right by the sink. Tell you that screw is extra tight, and I'm worried I'm going to strip it. The blade fits fairly well. See if I can find one that fits even better. The problem is it's got to be narrow like that, but a little bit thicker. I wonder if I should just regrind this screwdriver to fit. Yeah, this itty bitty set screwdriver was camming out on it, but what I did was I just made sure I was pushing extra hard, and it did turn a little bit, so I think I can get it now. Yeah, there we go. Feels like another really short one, but definitely long enough to, oh yeah, it's definitely long enough to have been engaging the end of the shaft, so I think this is what holds this on. So if I put that in so it doesn't fall out. Will this come off now? I can't tell if that's a... tell if this is a little, like, almost strange nut deal on the end. Why wouldn't they just put a nut to thread onto the shaft on the end? Why this weird rounded cup? But it does feel like there's a... No. That is, by the looks of it now, that looks like that is the end of... That is actually part of this. I see more telltale tooth marks from a pipe wrench being on that. Somebody trying to turn, get something to turn. Alright, let's take this bolt out. You know what's nice about this lathe is that it's got, I mean, it's got a lot of dirt on it, but I mean, it's got a lot of oil on it that dirt is stuck to. And everything I'm taking apart has got lots of oil on it. And that's a really good sign. As opposed to if you're buying one of them lathes, which, believe me, I am always searching. I search Craigslist nationally, minimum once a week, hoping a Hendey's going to pop up. That is in poor enough condition that the guy's selling it cheap enough that he might be willing to pull parts off of it and sell them and ship them to me. The closest I've gotten is a guy in California who's got one. He had it listed for $600 or $800. Been sitting outside. Had the tapering parts, all the tapering jig parts that I wanted off of it, and a faceplate, no chuck. And I figured, well, be willing to buy the tapering jig, parts, faceplate. And that was really, there wasn't much else on it I could use. It was a cone head, but it had the right tapering jig on it. Make a long story short, been in communication with him, but he just said he's got, the minimum he can do is take 600, which means if he scraps it, and if he's lucky and he gets 150 bucks, 200 bucks scrap, that means I got to pay him 400 to ship me a faceplate and the tapering jig parts, and that ain't happening. Well, plus the shipping from California. But I digress. What was I talking about? Oh, my point being is that I've seen several Hendeys out there listed. They look like they've been sitting outside, not even tarped, rust all over the ways and everything. Usually says something in the listing like may need cleaning, light rust. But I'll tell you, you know, on a machine like that, you'd be lucky if you get these screws out like this. Oh, probably shouldn't have dropped that. No harm done. Well, these are brass. These are interesting. These shoes that engage that right in here and move this back and forth, they almost look like they're wear components that by design are supposed to be able to be replaced. Can't really, I gotta clean it up to see better, but this looks like a multi-piece deal right here. Badly interesting. I just put those parts in the parts washer to clean them later, but I did clean one of these up just because I was just talking about it and I thought it'd be maybe interesting to see what the heck I'm talking about here. So anyways, oh, I didn't widen the shot, did I? Sorry about that. But you can see this thing is kind of funky. It's got, it's almost like brass. This is almost more like a copper colored alloy. But it's a multi-piece deal. Not quite sure what the point of that is. Almost as if maybe there's some way to change this piece when this wears and the diameter gets too thin. Or was this worn so much that somebody made this piece and attached it to it to
to make that wide enough again. Interesting.